Be a bridge and elevate, uplifting women, connecting communities.
Hello and welcome to Be a Bridge and Elevate, where we are here to uplift women.
And connect communities. I am Tanika Cherie.
And I'm Ramonda S.
Thank you so much for joining us.
So let's just get right into it. I think we need to give our audience a little introduction, let them know who we are, why we're here and what we're about. Why don't you tell them a little bit about Tanika Cherie?
Well, I'm from Indianapolis, Indiana, and 2 children. I once upon a time was a banker. I was in the financial industry for many, many years, and now I work in nonprofit, helping and teaching personal and professional development training to men and women who are returning to the workforce, as well as people who are recently released from incarceration. And it's just awesome. I love living here in Kansas City.
But did you try the barbecue?
It is phenomenal.
Yes,
I absolutely love it.
Yes, it is.
I absolutely love it.
Wonderful. And a little bit about myself, Ramonda S. I am born and bred here in Kansas City. Lived here pretty much all my life. Single mom. I have 3 lovely children when they're not working my nerves.
Being kids.
When they're not working my nerves. I love them. I love them. Background in finance. I've done work in broadcasting. And I love all things that have to do with community outreach, especially helping women. So
Absolutely.
that's why we're here. We're talking about being a bridge between what we've experienced and how we can help other women who may be going through different life changes, and what can we do to get those women to the different resources that they're in need of. So those are really important goals to have, and that's why we're here.
Absolutely. What would you say are some of the lessons that you learned?
There's a little bit of a division between the lessons that I've learned personally and then the lessons that I've learned professionally.
Absolutely.
So personally, I think one of the key things that I've learned is in relationship building, right? I think that at a certain time in my life, there was a place where I really didn't focus so much on what was the best for the other person in the relationship, but more about, okay, how is this going to benefit me, and not really realizing the impact, if you will, of how my decisions influenced other people. So I think that that's been a really big challenge for me as I've grown into adulthood. My perspectives on that have changed tremendously.
Absolutely.
Now, professionally, I think one of the things that's really helped me is to understand that everything does not need to be said. You can think about some things, and Lord knows that there's going to be some times where you want to say some things, but it's important to let that filter kick in and use good judgment.
Yes.
Because there may be situations that you have right now, you may need to cross that bridge again.
Right. So you know what I learned as far as growing up? A lot of times, some of the issues that we have today stem from our past, stem from our childhood. And I grew up with both of my parents, and my father was really mean. I mean, I love my father. He's in heaven now, but he was extremely mean, and he ruled our home with fear, and that's how it was supposed to be. And I'm grateful that I don't do the same thing like in my home. My father and my parents did the best that they could from what they knew, from their own experiences. And even though it's not okay, we have a choice, right? And I just chose to give my children everything that I felt like I didn't get at home. And it has to be the grace of God that I've learned, right from wrong as it comes to love and relationship, because I didn't get a lot of some of the affection and the things that you need as a little girl in your home. I wasn't told I was beautiful. My father oftentimes referred to me as that girl when he would talk to my mother. But so one of the things I've learned as far as my lessons is the fact that you have to take from your past whatever happened and pull the good from there that you can, and then move on and build from that. But it took for me to get to the point where I'm at today, at the age of 46. It took that long for me to get it. No one told me that 30 years ago. And, so those are just one of the lessons that I learned. And then professionally, I learned that it's very important to have a mentor.
Yes, it is. Yes,
I have a professional mentor who I can bounce things off of. And when you say don't say everything in the workplace, you do need another professional who understands, that arena that you work in, where you
Right,
can bounce
right.
ideas off of, where you can get advice and input, because that's a safe place. So the mistake I made, because I had to learn the hard way, was confiding in people who would share with me. But even though I would keep their information confidential, they wouldn't keep mine. And the next thing you know, I was the topic of lunch conversation. But that's
Water
my
cooler
fault.
talk.
Right. That's my fault. That's on me, right?
Yeah.
So those are just, there's so many lessons that we learn, but those are two things that I've learned in the workplace, is to have a mentor. Someone who's maybe where you want to be, because that stretches you, and someone you can call and vent and be like, girl, okay, this is what happened. And everything you want to say to that mean, difficult coworker or supervisor, you can say to that person.
Sure.
And then go to work the next day holding your head up high and still having a job, because we like electricity
Can we stay
and
employed
gas.
today? Can we stay employed today? Well, you know what, and you brought up a really good point when you mentioned that there was a difference in having parents that raised you a certain kind of way. Why? Because those experiences shape how we form relationships with not only people in our personal lives, but professionally too. Sometimes we're raised in homes where we're taught to be these independent, strong women, but there's no roadmap to explain to you what happens after you leave home, and how do you continue to do that in a way that's healthy for you and for the people around you. I know in our home, I was the eldest of 4 children, and it was critical for me to be the strong one, the leader, always have your head on straight. That was the expectation. It was the expectation. It was not optional. And on the days when I thought it might be optional, there were repercussions for that. There weren't a lot of conversations about any time that I might want to slack off and decide I'm just not going to do.
Right.
No, there weren't a whole lot of conversations like that. I think that having those mentors professionally that can step in and sort of guide you along that professional path and say, hey, here's some best practices. No matter what job you're working at, these are some best practices.
You know what we take for granted is each other. We take for granted having a grandmother and a mom. I lost my parents 11 months apart right after high school, and I didn't get to ask her any of the adult questions. I didn't get to ask her the mommy type questions that I needed to know as a mother. And when you don't have those things, or when you experience someone walking out of your life, say for instance, you had an older sister and that's all that you had, then you find yourself trying to figure life out, and that's when you make some not so smart choices.
Sure.
That's when we as women will listen to our boyfriends, or we start to be more like the people we see on TV and music videos than because we're trying to figure, we're trying to learn ourselves. We're trying to learn, who we are.
Sure.
Back to the mentor. That person, that particular person in the office may not be the person who you want to try to be like. It, just depends, because everyone's work ethic is different. Right. Sometimes people have motives, and you don't want to go to work and be paranoid. But again, you just need to have that person who you trust that will steer you in the right direction.
When you talk about that workplace paranoia, it's real. I mean, it is real.
Yeah.
I can't sit here and say that work hurt, just like you have church hurt and family hurt. There's work hurt too.
Yes.
I've been in some situations in which you confided in someone, and then you found out that got brought up when it was time for your annual review.
Oh, won't he do it?
Yeah, won't he will. Yeah. So, that is really important, that we use discretion, and that we have a certain degree of discernment or intuition that allows us to say, watch what they do first. Watch what they do, watch what they say, because your actions will tell me who you really are.
And believe that first.
Believe it
Believe
first.
what they show you first.
Believe it first, because guess what? Even if you've not told them anything, but you watch them talking about somebody else's issues, guess what they're going to do with yours?
You know what else we do? We use our workplace like it's our counselor. Everything we're going through in our relationship with our boyfriends or our husbands, you think that you could talk, to your girlfriend. That's not the place to vent.
You're not immune.
That's not, if you have a bad day, then maybe be in your cubicle space or in your office, you can kind of be quiet, stay professional. But when it's to the extent of the fact that we're completely really showing our emotions and venting at work and can't keep ourselves together, they remember those things when it's time for promotion.
That's right.
And it could be used against you in the court of law. It could be used against you, right? So we have to
Gavel.
be careful.
Yeah. Let's take a minute and we're just going to take a quick break. We'll be right back.
Don't forget to order your copy of The Mornings After From Grief to Glory, a collaborative work including Tanika Cherie, author, speaker, motivator.
What are some things you've learned relationship-wise, whether it was with, a relationship, where it's a person that you care about, or just a relationship with a friend or a family member? What are some lessons that would you say that you've learned as a woman?
Oh boy, I think for me, relationships as a woman, in relationship to marriage, let's go there, okay? I was married for a total of 12 years to someone that I felt was the love of my life. Problem is that this person had their representative when we got married. Anybody know about the representative? So this person that you married, who you thought you knew.
Right.
We jived and we gelled, and I thought this man was great, and he was awesome, and he was. He really was. We had this awesome marriage for several years, and then one day, the representative went on vacation, and this other guy showed up, right? Well, when this other guy started showing up, he didn't care about some of the same things that I did, and our priorities were very different. The other thing is that there were some challenges that he himself had experienced that were no fault of his own, okay, going through his childhood and even into adulthood that we never discussed. Had no knowledge of it.
I can relate to that.
No knowledge of it for
Yeah.
7, 8 years into our marriage, and then all of a sudden one day, ding dong,
Okay.
the doorbell rang, and this new husband showed up. Who was this new husband?
Was he a Stepford husband? Is that, how they're Stepford? Well, okay.
Something like that. He just showed up, and unfortunately, it just didn't work out. But in that relationship, I learned one very critical thing. Never turn someone else into an idol in your life.
That is great advice.
In an effort to be that wonderful wife, and I did it with everything that I had in me, with all the best intentions, it just didn't work because I lost myself in that. I lost myself trying to be what I thought was the perfect wife. Nobody gave me a manual. I was looking for the manual, but I tried to create one for myself, and unfortunately, that was the wrong answer.
Guess what I learned? We don't ask the hard questions.
No, we don't.
We as women do not ask the hard questions. And I think partly it's because we don't want to know. Because we see all this good about this man or about this person, and we'd rather not. Like, I can deal with it. If at least these are like, we have a list. Like,
That's so true.
as long as this person's not this, and this, then I can deal with it,
But
right?
what else
But we don't
are
care
they?
about the rest. But what happened is I had some information shared with me after having been married for the first 2 years of my marriage. It was year 2, when someone said, "Hey, by the way, this happened to me as a child." And I'm like, this explains this and this. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
All this time I thought it was me, but you
Yes.
had this issue, or you've had this event, this tragic event happen to you in your life, and it's trickled over to our marriage, to your
Absolutely.
adulthood, and now this is unhealthy. And it is something that we dealt with for a very, very, very long time. So I really wish that I really would encourage people to go to premarital counseling. I really would, and not that it's going to bring it all in, but so.
I think
Great.
the premarital counseling is a great suggestion because during that counseling period, it's sort of like a warm-up exercise, if you will. It's an opportunity for the both of you to sit down with someone who doesn't have skin in the game. It's neutral ground, and you can really discuss some things that are going to affect you for a long time to come. Not just you two, but even your children.
Your children.
In our situation, there were some incidents that occurred that had a direct impact, not only on us as spouses and as parents, but directly on the children as well. So these difficult conversations really need to be had as soon as possible.
Absolutely.